Kenya Beyond 2017. What a beauty Kenya is. The equator cuts across our country almost on a 50-50 basis, giving what many people would consider the most ideal climate on the planet. 42 distinct language groups in one nation. We look like we are 4 different countries in terms of the experience you have here, the grandeur of the land, the climate, the weather conditions, like 4 nations packaged into one. The coastal region, the highlands, the lake region, and the northern frontier. Our coastline attracts people from all over the world. Diani Beach in particular is one of the most sought beaches around the world. And so is the Marine Beach, Mombasa Marine Beach, and the Coral Garden. Kinyanjui Beach, the scenic scenes of Lamu, the mangrove forests, the prime land along our coastline, the white sands. When you go up a little bit, you find the Savo, then the Aboseli, the best site for viewing Mount Kilimanjaro. For your information, Mount Kilimanjaro is not just the highest peak in Africa, but the highest freestanding mountain on the face of the earth. Further up, you meet this great city, the city of Nairobi, the only city on the planet with a national park in it. You can take a walk there when you want to relax right from the city on the Nairobi Safari Walk, and you're going to have a panoramic view of the ecology of the entire ecosystem of the national park. Further north, we have the great Mount Kenya, from which this nation is named, the only mountain on the earth along the equator that is snowy at the peak. Further north, we have the Meru National Park, and then in the northwest, we have the Samburu, the Buffalo Springs, and the Shaba. On the leeward side, we have the conservancy known as Olpajeta, and further southwest, the Aberdares. Going further west, we have the Great Rift Valley, the largest rift valley on the face of the earth, many water bodies, rivers, lakes inhabited by the pink flamingos. How much more can I tell you about the Chulu Hills, the Kisumu Impala Sanctuary, and Lake Victoria, the largest water body in Africa, the second largest freshwater lake on the face of the earth, and the very source of the longest river on this planet. Then we have the Masai Mara, and now I understand that the wildebeest migration is considered one of the world wonders. What a beauty Kenya is. We have some of the best biodiversity and phosphor and salt, and now there are traces of commercial gold in western Kenya, enough gas and oil in Turkana and other parts of northern Kenya. This nation is blessed with agriculture. If you didn't know, we are the largest black tea exporter on the face of the earth, and the 4th largest tea exporter overall, lagging behind Sri Lanka, India, and China. The second most traded commodity on earth is coffee, and Kenya prides to having 7 of the best coffee factories matters taste. Our coffee has been a perennial favorite for coffee connoisseurs. When you look at our cut flowers, we are the 4th largest on the face of the earth. The Kenyan story cannot be complete without mentioning athletics. 800 meters, 1500 meters, marathon. When our young men and women join those stadiums, the world waits in earnest expectation, knowing they are going to hoist our flag and sing our national anthem, because those gallant young men and women never disappoint. And of late, our rugby team is setting shivers around the world, and so is Julius Yego, the javelin thrower. What a beauty Kenya is. We have made a lot of gains since independence. In 1963, we were 8.9 million people. The estimate as at 2017 is 47 million people. We had a life expectancy of 48 years. Today, the average lifespan of a Kenyan is 63.4 years, above the Africa average of 58.6. We have reduced infant mortality from 179 deaths to 39 deaths for 1,000 children born, doing far better than the global average of 42. We've been able to reduce HIV prevalence from 10% in the 90s to 6% today. Matters economy. We have, as at last year, 5 trillion shillings changed hands in Kenya. And Business Monitor Intelligence estimates 8.7 trillion shilling will be changing hands by 2020. Guess what? Our GDP was 13.3 billion US, and it has grown to 63.3 billion US by 2013, according to World Bank. World Bank further suggests that our per capita then was 104 US. As per 2013, it was 1,245 US. And that's the reason they declared us in 2015 a lower middle income earner, because the benchline is 1,036 US. We are still the largest economy in East Africa with an annual budget of 2.7 trillion Kenya shilling. And many business commentators describe Kenya as one of Africa's lion economies. Matters economy. We've made some progress. Education, in 1963, 840,000 students were enrolled in primary school. That was about 35% of the then age group, with only 10,593 that year enrolling in high schools. In 2017 in Kenya, we expect 1.5 million students to sit for their national examinations, KCPE, with over 70% translating into high school. In 1970, we had one chartered university in Kenya, the University of Nairobi. Today, we have 48 chartered universities, 22 public and 26 private. Just in 2012, we had about 71% mobile phone subscribers. Today, we have 88% mobile phone subscribers, the highest in Africa. And guess what? We introduced to the world the innovation of transferring money through the phone, the M-Pesa concept. That was an original concept from Kenya that has transformed the industry. It has shifted the financial sector on the planet. No doubt, we have made a lot of gains as a nation. That said, we have a lot of issues as a country. While our population is almost 5 times the independence population, our large size has remained the same, 581,309 square kilometers. And some of us in Kenya own thousands of acres, while hundreds of thousands are squatters in their own land. Matters health, we spend a meager 6% of our budget on health, lower than any of our neighboring nations. We still have less than 20 doctors for every 100,000 Kenyans living. And only 25% of Kenyans have either a public, private, or even a community-based insurance health scheme. 75% of Kenyans are exposed when they are sick or when they are hospitalized. Guess what? By 1980, the US dollar changed to the Kenya shilling at 7.41. Today, the US dollar to the Kenya shilling is changing at 103. While we have made a lot of progress in education, UNESCO says that we still have 1 million children who are not in school, especially in the slums in the urban areas and in our northern frontier. The government of Kenya last month admitted that 2.7 Kenyans are in acute food shortage, especially in Isiolo and Saburu and Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Turkana, Marsabit, Madera, Wajir, Garissa, Tana River, and Kilifi counties. You know, Ghana was able to reduce the undernourished people from 7 million to 1 million from 1990 to 2004, and they employed only 3 strategies. First, market opening, market access for smallholder growers. Secondly, they gave incentives to enhance food production. And thirdly, they enhanced the road network into the farming areas. That was the miracle. That was the magic there. At the meantime, we still encourage pastoralism in Kenya for political expediency. But we cannot discuss issues about this country and ignore the main elephant in the room, corruption. You see, a survey done by audit firm PricewaterhouseCoopers on economic crimes indicated that Kenya is the third most corrupt nation on the face of the earth. In the financial year 2011-2012, then PS Ministry of Finance, Joseph Kenya, said, a third of our budget is lost to corruption. Let me interrogate that statement. Then our budget was 1.5 trillion shilling, meaning a third lost to corruption is 500 billion shillings. What can we do with 500 billion shillings? Let me tell you 4 things. The superhighway was estimated at 30 billion shillings. With 500 billion shillings, we could have done 16 superhighways per year, not in 3 years, per year. What can 500 billion shillings do? Number 2, the estimated cost for the Darkway Water project that is supposed to do 3 things: supply water, hydroelectricity, and irrigation, mainly in Kitui and Makueni counties, but also parts of Machakos all the way up to the Konza Tech City, is estimated at 60 billion shillings. 500 billion shillings could have constructed 8 such mega dams, and I believe that would have reduced poverty and food shortage and enhanced the economic power, not only of those counties, but in Kenya in general. What can 500 billion do? From Mombasa to Nairobi, the cost of SGR, standard gauge railway line, is 327 billion. That doesn't exhaust the kitty. If we took the stretch, the 120-kilometer stretch from Nairobi to Naivasha, that would cost the country 150 billion. If I add that 327, that gives me 477 billion. It still does not exhaust what is lost to corruption every single year. So I suggest, well, that's a mega project. With the money lost to corruption every year, we can do a railway line from Mombasa to slightly past Naivasha, not in 10 years, but every single year. What can 500 billion shillings do? Let me tell you the 4th thing. When we launched the slum upgrade program and we piloted it in Kibera, it cost us 6.5 billion to put up 3,072 houses. If I take 500 billion at the same rate, I would build 236,307 housing units. Let me tell you more. We have 2.5 million people who live in the slums of Nairobi. All other things being equal, using the same BQs, we would eradicate the housing crisis in 10.5 years. There is no doubt anyone in his right frame of mind can notice the development taking place in Kenya. But I submit to you tonight, that's a meager percent of our true potential. It has nothing to do with the potential this country has. We have tried to address these issues over the years. We have recognized that these issues are grounded on governance and democracy. We have realized that the situation in Kenya is because of the favorite few taking advantage of the languishing millions. And the first attempt to address our governance issues goes back to 1952, when a bloody insurgency rose against white settler. And that made the white settlers lock in the so-called or the famous Kapeguria 6, Jomo Kenyatta, Acheng Oneko, Bildad Kegia, Fred Kubai, Kongo Karuba. And immediately a state of emergency was declared. And in 1958, all the black people elected in large corps walked out of the chambers when Sir Evelyn Berlin refused to do constitutional amendments. But our people never gave up. That intensified, and between 1960 and 1963, they negotiated what is known as the Lancaster Constitution, or what we call today the Independence Constitution. KANU, the ruling party, negotiated with KADU. Let me refresh your memory for the sake of the students in our midst. KANU is Kenya African National Union, and KADU is Kenya African Democratic Union. They merged together and paved way to a de facto one-party nation. Shortly, our very first president, Jomo Kenyatta, fell out with Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, the vice president, and the latter formed KPU, Kenya People's Union. But that was short-lived and banned by the government of the day, and the leaders were detained. In 1982, our second president, Daniel Arap Moi, reviewed the constitution, making Kenya a one de jure party state to forestall the registration of a political party by Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and George Moseti Anyona. But unfortunately, on the 1st of August that year, that might be the darkest hour in the history of this country, a coup d'etat was attempted, but faced by a very ruthless crush from loyalist soldiers. But that made the Moi regime to undertake a protracted crackdown on Mwakenya and any other voice of dissent. Between 1982 and 1988, we had the Mlolongo queuing voting system that rigged out very famous and very renowned politicians. This gave rise to the Saba Saba movement in 1990. Many protesters were arrested, some were maimed, and many were killed, but they stayed the course. And this made President Moi to bow down and repeal Section 2A of our Constitution, and thereby restoring multi-party politics